In the previous video, we created this tube structure based on a wireframe of curves and then fleshed out with the solid pipe command. And in this next tutorial, we're going to work on making a freeform swept surface for a very comfortable chair seat that will go along with this. First, though, I might want to edit this tube structure, and I've taken the tubes that I created before and organized them into a group of polysurfaces. At this point, I'm going to delete them because I think I want the back to be a little lower. You know, we made this 12-inch high armrests and a further 12 inches high for the back. And that's fine, but it's pretty straight up and down, and that might be a little bit restrictive. So let's use our old friend, the edit points command. Remember, all of these lines and fillets, all these curves, were put together into one group. And now I can turn on edit points, and I can see the edit points for everything that I've made, and I can start to move them around. Remember, you have to be careful about where your construction plane is. So let's say we were to go from the left-hand plane. We could take this group of points and we could move them downward by a distance of, say, 4 inches, right? And then see that what we've done is moved that straight down. In order to make the back of the chair more comfortable, I'm going to use the edit points and a couple of commands a little bit differently than we've used them before. So the edit points are on. I'm going to first move the edit points, which is something that we've done before, just some of them, the ones here at where the armrest meets the back, and I'm going to move them downward, giving a little bit of a nice rounded shape to that. And then I'm going to select this whole back set of edit points, and I'm going to use a rotate command, and I'm going to rotate around the back of the seat in order to give a little bit of lean back to the top of the chair. So now you can see in 3 dimensions that I started with very straight and very simple geometry for this wireframe of the seat, and now I've got something that actually is starting to look like it would be comfortable to sit in and ergonomic to use. So I'm going to go back to the full perspective command, and I had to delete the pipe that I made before for all of these because I could not edit it as cleanly as I can edit the wireframe. But now I can select the entire wireframe if I want to, and I can pipe that again to the same diameter and get the pipe structure back. Keep in mind that the pipe command is very powerful, but it's not as easy to edit as wireframe geometry. So it doesn't hurt to be able to kind of go back sometimes and take away the pipes and then edit the wireframe geometry and just remake the pipes. So now to create the surface of the chair, I'm going to take all of the poly surfaces using my selection sets. I'll select all the poly surfaces, and this time I'll hide them so that I can see the wireframe itself. And I'm going to start to draw the profile of the back of the chair, and I'll then draw some cross profiles for the seat and sweep them and make a solid out of those. In order to draw the cross-sectional profile of the chair, I don't really want to work on the left-hand view, even though it looks like it's the profile of the chair. My construction plane isn't in exactly the right location. So I'm going to go back to perspective. In order to draw the cross-section profile for the sweeping seat of the chair, I want to have a construction plane that goes right down the center line of the chair. To do that, I will create a new construction plane, but first I need a little bit more geometry. So I'll draw a line segment, a horizontal one, just across the front of the chair, above the seat here, but from one arm to the other. And I will create a construction plane using 3 points, the midpoint of the front of the chair, midpoint of the back, and then for Z, the midpoint of that new reference line I drew. So you can see that the construction plane goes right through the middle of the chair, and I can get rid of that reference line I threw in there quickly in order to do that. So now I'm going to use this construction plane to draw a profile with a 3-view window and I'm going to do a little bit of custom drawing here. I'm going to have the left-hand view highly visible here in the corner of my screen, but I'm not going to be drawing in the left-hand view. I'm going to be drawing in the perspective view, and I'm going to make a curve that interpolates points, and I'm going to start from the midpoint of that front edge of the chair. I'm then going to come in the perspective view down somewhere where the seat can go depress a bit below. I'm then going to come up somewhere near the midpoint of the back of the chair, and then I'm going to finish above the back of the chair. So I've got a pretty simple curve that is on this new construction plane, and that I made by clicking on some geometry, but clearly not clicking on other parts of the geometry in order to make that. Next, I'm going to draw some cross-section planes that will be useful in order to create the shape of the chair from side to side. And to do that, I will again create a new construction plane, and it will be a 3-point construction plane. And in this case, I can make it across the front of the chair. So you see it there. Using the chair's geometry to click on the 3 points that I know will make the correct construction plane. And now I can again make a cross-section curve using an interpolate points curve. And I could, in this case, go from some point that I can click on each side that will give me a very even and symmetrical wishbone shape for that. Now that might be a bit too swoopy of a curve, so I can select that curve. I can turn on edit points. I can select these 4, and I can start to move those downward. And holding shift, this is moving symmetrically, so I can start to flatten this out. I can select only the end ones, and I can similarly move those downward to further flatten the seat. And if I wanted to make this even smoother, I could start to delete points or move them in other ways. I think this will be a good starting point. So we'll take this curve, turn off the edit points by hitting escape, and we want to multiply it along the center line that we made before. It's probably going to be easier to do and look better if I go back to the previous construction plane. So notice on the construction planes or C-planes tab, there is this back arrow, and what I've done is now moved my construction plane back to the center line of the chair. We're now going to use the array along curve command, which is one that Catalin was describing in class last week, where we're going to select this side-to-side cross-section as the curve we're going to array, press enter, and then it wants you to select the path curve, and it says base point. And you need to select the center line curve of the seat near the beginning end of it. Tell it the number of items you want. In this case, we want 4. Freeform is what we want it to say. And select OK. So that we now get a series of, you might think of them as ribs or cross sections, that move up along this, rotating as they do to stay relatively perpendicular to the curvature of the center line. I can now, for visibility, I can change my C-plane maybe back to world top, get out of the way, so that you can see the 4 cross-section curves that we've created and the 1 centerline curve. We are now going to use a surface creation command called a sweep with 1 rail. It wants to know the rail, so we select the center line. And since it's a sweep 1, you only get to select 1 piece of geometry. You don't need to hit return. It is immediately asking you for the cross-section curves. So we're now going to select each of these cross-sections in order. Hit return when done. It gives you a preview of this nice seat that we're creating, and it asks you for some different different things that you could see for options. Freeform is the one that you want. If your centerline curve or your edge curves are particularly bumpy, you might want to rebuild with fewer control points. But this looks good, so we'll say OK. And we have a pretty comfortable looking seat that we've created here. We need to make it a little thicker and then move it into position. It looks like it could be rotated back and whatnot. And I'm going to take this surface and I'm going to create a solid by offsetting that surface. And I'm going to give it a distance of 1/2 inch, 0.5 inches, and make this nice solid. Now it's going to be sitting a little too low compared to the pipe rail, and maybe a little too far in front of it in terms of the back. So I'll go ahead and show cross sections that I hid before. And if you accidentally delete these pipe cross sections, you can also just repipe that wireframe very easily. So what I see now is that the base of the seat is sitting below this front crossbar. The back looks like it's sitting in a pretty good position. And what I can use again, the gumball tool, in order to take this and move it very easily straight up. And if I wanted to, I could start to rotate this using these different arcs to get it into position. So I'll move this up just a little bit more. And that's starting to look like a nice molded seat here at the edge of the tubes. And I think I've got a very good result there, so we're going to save this. Now, one of the things that I can do is keep the wireframe geometry, perhaps keep it separate from the surfaces, so that if I need to go back and modify this to make a different variation or do something differently, I still have that wireframe to work with. So I could take all of the poly surfaces using the selection set, select all the poly surfaces. I could group those. I might want to ungroup them later if I want a different material for the seat versus the legs of this. And I could create a sublayer under guard tower and call it solids. And I could give it a slightly different color. And I could take all of those solids and change their layer to guard chair sublayer solids. If I hide all of the solids again, or if I take all of that and I hide that, I still have the wireframe. So I have the underlying structure that can be modified and made different. I can select, using my selection tools, all of the curves that are here, using the select curves, and I can hide those. And now I can take what I have left, all of my solids, and I could use the gumball tool to also start to modify this, perhaps to modify the scale. If I want this to be a wider chair, I could take this and widen it. I could look from the side view and say, well, that's fine, but I want it to be a little bit deeper, so I could deepen it a little. And I can make this more customized, or I can even use just a sort of an eyeball approach to adjusting it. I can then show the original wireframe, which is there, which can be used to make a new or a different version of this. So this has been the creation of the LifeGuard chair, using wireframes to create a framework, using control points or edit points to modify in a pretty quick way by moving or rotating them, and moving some construction planes in order to create a cross-section of the chair in two directions that is swept and turned into a simple solid. Thank you.